and welcome. We're going to be chatting to Ciara Crawford from Sozo Equine about Kinesiotape. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Anne.
Thank you. So Kinesiotape is not only one of our favorite modalities, it's probably one of our favorite topics to chat about as well, because we still don't understand exactly how it works, but there are so many theories and so many, connections we can make and figure out what's happening in the body. So it's always exciting to chat about what could be happening and how we could be influencing the body with this incredibly effective modality. I should put it that way, because we do see the most amazing results. So why don't you introduce yourself to us and to our audience? I think most people who are with us today know you already. Guys, those of you watching, please let us know who you are and where you are in the world and what you do with Kinesiotape. So how is it a part of your life, your practice, your horses' lives? Let us know. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm Ciara Crawford. I started with Kinesiotape actually as an occupational therapist. So, well, to back up before that, I grew up on horses. So like my dad roped and my mom barrel raced. So we grew up in the Western world and I've always been on a horse. And then I always wanted to do something with the body. So I ended up as an occupational therapist, and I actually had an entire class on taping in OT school, but I wasn't totally bought into it. So in retrospect, it's like, man, like if I really would have believed in it, I probably could have carried some more away from that class. But at the time I didn't understand it. And so I thought like, well, if people in the Olympics are wearing it, I'm sure it does something, but I don't know. Like that was kind of my attitude at that time. And then I started working in orthopedics. I worked in outpatient orthopedics. I worked in a hand clinic where we specialized from the neck to the fingers. And I had an influx of these patients with CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. And it's a really bizarre diagnosis where they just have a lot of nerve pain. And I was following, her name is Allison Taylor. She's an OT. She does amazing things on Facebook. Kinesio Allison Taylor is her page. And she just does really amazing things with tape. And I thought, if it doesn't work, we didn't hurt anything. But if it does work, it could change their life, literally, these CRPS patients. And I remember this one patient that cooked a meal for her family. She cooked dinner for her family. And she was in tears because she was so excited that she could use her arms to cook a meal because she had tape on. And I was like, okay, from there on out, I was like I just said, if it doesn't work, we didn't hurt them. But if it does work, it literally changes their life. And so from there, I started treating a lot more people with it. And I still hadn't crossed over to the horse world. I didn't know it existed in the horse world. And so I had 2 injured horses that, like most people, come to their wits' end. And they're like, well, I'll just try anything, grasping at straws. And I just thought, I need some tape on this horse. And I had a gelding that had some atrophy in his glutes. He had some nerve damage up high in his sacrum. And I kept his glutes taped for like 6 weeks and saw a drastic difference in how I was able to strengthen them again. And so as I saw that success in my own horses, I really thought I discovered something because I had never heard of it before. And I was like, I've discovered this gold mine of taping horses, and I totally did not discover it. But I really thought I had. So it was neat to connect to this entire community of people across the world that were already doing this. And so I fell in love with it. Like as I learned, and I spend a lot of time on PubMed. And so as I was finding all this research about how it affects the nervous system, that was something that had never been introduced to me. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I said, it's really hard to do harm with it. And so I was like, I want to learn how to do this every way I can. And then I just wanted to teach everybody about it because I was like, this is an amazing modality. Everybody can do it in some capacity. So we need to get it in as many hands as possible, because when you pile it on top of other treatments, it works even better. So I just really fell in love with it. Not from the beginning, but eventually I fell in love with it.
I love that, because it is like you said, we learn these things in while we're studying, and some of it we just discard. We're like, no, that's nonsense. Yeah. Weird. I don't understand it, whatever the case may be. And so many of our modalities, like acupuncture would be a classic one, because how does that work? That doesn't make any sense to me. To my logical brain, it makes no sense. So we just discard it. And even though we don't understand, when we start to use it, the effects are just, you can't look past it. You can't. Right. you can't put it up to anything else. You've tried so many things already, and it is incredible. So I really love that. And I love that you've said you thought you discovered it until you found out how many people were using it.
Yeah.
How many of us are in exactly that same boat? Like, we're trying all these things, but you know, it's been tried, and someone's tried it somewhere. So that's what I love about our vet rehab community, because we just share ideas, talk about things. Let's try the weird and wonderful and see how it works. And if we find something that works, then we can talk about it. More people can try it. And
absolutely,
I really love that. So what is your favorite thing to use Kinesiotape for? So in people that nerve pain, wow, that really does change your life, right? And to have something that's so non-invasive and gentle, and that can make such a massive difference to your pain perception or experience. Doesn't really matter what that pain is coming from. Just how do we replace that, right? I have right. My mom walks around sometimes with the TENS machine strapped to her back the whole day just to try and alleviate that pain, but she doesn't need to. We could just use tape and have a very similar or better effect. Better, probably, I would say, than the TENS machine. So what is your favorite thing in horses to use the tape for?
That's hard, because I always joke any part of the nervous system and any part of fascia, and that's their entire body, right? And so it's not a fix-all, it's not a magic wand, and it works better in conjunction with other modalities. But really, I mean, they have receptors in their entire body, and like you said, pain is one of my favorite things. Breaking the pain cycle is so effective. No matter what you're doing and what your ultimate goal is, just breaking the pain cycle is so effective for helping them function and helping them go through rehab better. So any pain, any fascial restrictions, any nerve pain, which those two are normally coupled together. I feel like a broken record because I say that all the time and I talk about it from my social media all the time. I'm not just a one-trick pony, but I just really love the way that tape affects the nervous system and fascia. So
okay. So guys, we have quite a few of you live with us. Welcome. It's so great to have you. I really want to invite you to join the conversation. This is a conversation. That's why we're having it on Facebook. So join us, share your questions, share your experiences, your thoughts. Like I said, that's what we're here for as a community. Let's share our ideas and discuss them and chat about them and see where that can take us. So the neurological system, let's dive a little bit deeper into that. And I love setting up these questions, and then I go, let's think about the neurological system, and then let's think about the fascial system. And then it's like, well, really, they're the same. They're the same thing at the end of the day. But let's go on the neurological part and how we suspect Kinesiotape affects the neurological system.
Absolutely. So tape is processed like touch, which is super cool. Like the physiology of it is that it goes up the spinal thalamic tract and then it's processed in the somatosensory cortex in the brain, which the somatosensory cortex of the brain elicits emotions. Of course it does, right? Like touch is social and social is emotional, whether you're a horse or a human. So what's really cool to me about that is I see a huge potential for tape to be used in touch rehab, like in abused horses and horses that have a really horrible relationship with touch because it's painful or it's scary or it hurts. I have a friend she sort of just has these cases fall into her lap, and we can't confirm that they were abused, but they just like vibrate when you get to them. They're so fearful, they're so painful, and she listens to them so beautifully and tapes them, and they start to rebuild a healthy relationship with touch because their brain is processing that as touch. And like I said, it's processed, that somatosensory cortex is relating that to their emotions as well. And so we're literally rewiring their brain to associate touch with healing and happiness and positive things. And so just that alone, I mean, the perfect way to tape a horse is on happy muscles because we want to reinforce good things to the brain. But if we can't massage them to make those muscles happy, if we can just give them a positive relationship with touch, like I said, with that pain cycle, that's super effective. And so, the nervous system goes all over. It improves joint awareness. So actually the stabilization from our joint applications come from the joint awareness. There's a lot of research out there with ballet dancers. I assume there's a college somewhere that's full of ballet dancers, and then like the PT program is doing research or something, because there's a lot of joint stability research on ballet dancers, which they are hard on their feet. And so to me, that gives it a little more validity that they're showing how much ankle stability and knee stability comes from taping these dancers' ankles, and their knees and their hips. But the research says that it's coming from just improving their brain's awareness of their ankle positioning and their knee positioning. So it's not really the mechanical stability, and they still have their range of motion. So that's super cool too. You can go everywhere with the nervous system. As far as strengthening muscles, encouraging them to contract, there's a lot of research that shows that the tape communicates with the alpha motor neurons, which is what tells the muscle to contract. And so the alpha motor neurons can recruit the tape from up to 2 centimeters away. So there's huge grace for us that it just sort of recruits it. You want to put it in the right spot, but if you mess it up, you have 2 centimeters of grace where it still helps you. Same thing with trigger points. What's super cool is they're showing that tape is just as effective as dry needling, and tape is just as effective as manual myofascial trigger point release as far as releasing trigger points, which is super interesting to me, because a needle, right, is going into the trigger point and it's manually breaking up the collagen fiber knot. And then the manual compression, ischemic compression is essentially just pushing on it and, cutting off, not really cutting off blood, but, like trying to kill it. Like we're trying to kill off that trigger point. And tape is just as effective, but it's the opposite, right? Like it's decompression rather than compression. So what you said earlier, honestly, we don't know how it works. Like there is no research that says this is how it works. There's research that says it does this, but we don't know how. It's like this magical Cinderella story of this modality that's super safe. Like I said, there's a lot of grace as far as contraction or relaxation. Both of them show that it can be effective from 2 centimeters away from the actual affected area. And it's wonderful. Like I said, it's like this Cinderella modality. Like we don't know how it works. We don't understand it yet. I don't know that we ever will, but what it's capable of is so cool. So
I really I just love it. So we have a comment here from Sammy Johnson. She says she's a student of yours and loves
Hi,
all
Sammy.
of the content and support that you have to offer. You're a gem. What has been your favorite taping case?
Probably one that I just did, and he's still recovering. He's not fully recovered, but it was a fractured olecranon, and he had a damaged radial nerve with it. And he really had no tricep control, no digit extension, carpal extension, or anything. And we taped him, and he was much more controlled. He is still on the mend. So I can't wait to tell the story that he is perfect and wonderful and he's roping calves again. But that's not his story yet, but that would be my favorite as of right now.
Sammy, do you have a favorite case that you want to tell us about? Because I'm sure you do have one that's kind of that opened your eyes to the possibility of tape. For me, it was a dressage horse, a high-level dressage horse, who was just some of the natural movements. Nothing that we could really pinpoint or identify. I had been working with him for a few weeks already. He was on a maintenance program, so we weren't specifically treating a pathology. We were just keeping him happy. And every week he would have back pain. And I said, nope, something is wrong. And we did an evaluation, we did a full reevaluation on all the surfaces. And I could see just something off in his one hind leg. Taped him up, had the owner ride him, and he was so much better on that hock. So I taped his hock. He was much better under saddle. And the vet x-rayed him, could find the pathology, which was in the hock. So to me, that was an amazing, the potential for us to use it as a part of our diagnostic process, right, is great, because we could identify where a pathology is lying. Yeah, that was my favorite. So not too exciting, but one of my favorites.
Yeah.
My first,
I like
eye opener. Yeah.
Yeah. I like where you went with that because it's not a diagnostic tool, but it's almost like blocking before blocking, right? Like if we make this hog happy, does it get better? You know, like if we make the Spetlock happy, does the gait get better? And so I like that you said that because I've said that sometimes and it kind of scares me to say it because it's not really accepted yet, you know, and I'm like, it's not blocking, but kind of, you know.
It's just helping, like guiding that process because like, we're not diagnosing, but it sends us in the right direction. And then we can be more specific with the diagnostic modalities and not waste so much money and time, right? That's the idea. Let's prioritize where the time and money goes so that we can treat the horse. Shem, are you okay with the sign?
Yes. Don't mind me, Anne. Anne's already had a crazy morning with me.
So Sammy says she's just starting her taping journey, so I don't have much insight to offer yet on a favorite, but I've taped 4 horses now and have had major releases in 3 out of 4 of them. I'm most proud of the anatomy knowledge I've gained to better pinpoint where pain is. I found my mare with a sore pectoral yesterday and not sure I'd have the confidence to address it before. That's really awesome, Sammy. Well done. And it just having that awareness to be able to look at our own horses and say, you know, this is where the problem is, and having something in our toolbox to address that. Again, we're just prioritizing where our resources and our money go so that when we bring the professionals in, they can be more effective and they can be more effective, more targeted, right? So I really love that.
Yeah, Sammy did a beautiful PEC application yesterday.
So Jennifer Casey has also joined us and she's asking, can you tape to help the diaphragm for engagement of the diaphragm? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I teach the diaphragm application in my advanced class. So sort of you just frame it in. So you start from the middle of the sternum and then you just frame it in. I can share a picture of that later if you want to see that or if you want to share that, Anne. But yeah, absolutely.
We can do that.
It's great.
And I think I saw, did you do a post on that a while ago?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, but I must. So how would you tape the diaphragm? What would be your goals there?
So I did it for a horse with heaves a couple times and got some improvement. And then I did it for some bleeders and didn't see a ton of improvement in my bleeders. I like to think that the proprioception was helping them fully inhale and fully exhale, but I can't prove that. I didn't see a ton of improvement, but I saw a lot of it in my horses with heaves.
Nice. Jennifer, is there something specific that you want to achieve with your diaphragm taping? Be really interesting to hear about that. So in terms of the neurological system, I want to go back to one thing that you said. So one of the things that I've had in my mind from my introduction to taping is it's a really gentle modality. It's really light. But if we apply it in one direction, we have an inhibitory effect. And in the other direction, we have an activation effect. And I am not convinced. So do you agree with that? Do you use that? Do you teach that? Do you see that? Are you convinced by that?
I'm not convinced by that. I was. I think it's sort of an old school of thought, but pretty much from 2015 forward, there's been a lot of research where they put the tape both directions, and we make ourselves way too important because the nervous system takes over and does what it needs anyways. So exactly what I said earlier about the alpha motor neurons recruit the tape when they need it, and the trigger points recruit it when they need it. And sort of we make ourselves too important because the nervous system does what it needs. And it's like, actually, you did that wrong. This is what I need. And then the nervous system gives the body what it needs. So that's sort of like I said, in the last 6 or 7 years, research is showing that direction doesn't really matter as long as it's the same direction as the muscle fibers. So you don't want to go the opposite direction the muscle fibers, but as long as it's the same direction as the fibers, origin to insertion versus insertion to origin doesn't have any benefit. There are some people who cling to that tightly And I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong with you doing that. So much of tape is your intention. If you believe it and you do it confidently, you will have an effective application. And if direction gives you confidence and that improves your intention, 100% do that. I'm not here to talk you off of that cliff. But as an instructor, people are intimidated by that. And so I'm not going to continue to intimidate them with something that we haven't shown is necessary. And so I want to instill confidence into people and tell them that the body's super cool and you just put this magic stuff on there and the body uses it, right?
Nice. I don't know 100% how I feel about that one, but I do agree with you. I find it intimidating, and I'm a physiotherapist. Like I don't which side's the origin and the insertion. I'm not bad with my anatomy, but really there are some details. I'm like, do I need to know that? You know?
Yeah.
So I've just admitted that on a Facebook Live to all of you, but that's
especially the brachiocephalicus. You're always like, which end is the origin again?
Yeah. So the amount of tension you tape with, yes, I think that does have an impact.
Absolutely.
And that does play a role. But the direction you go in, that never made sense to me. So Sammy says, I would love to see the diaphragm application. I have a lesson horse with heaves that I would love to try it on. So we'll share that. I mean, we'll share. I'll go. Yeah, we'll find that post and then we'll put it in the comments of this post at the end of the discussion for sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I love that. So let's talk about the fascial system and what influence we think Kinesiotape has on the fascial system and how we're impacting that, and the different areas like the lumbosacral fascia, which is just huge.
Right. So I think we have less effect on those massive sheets of fascia, like the lumbosacral fascia, but as far as the actual fascial impact goes, we still have the pain relief, we still have the nervous system effect, but I think we have less effect on those massive sheets of fascia. The smaller restrictions, like the individual encasing of the muscles, I do believe that we can affect. So fibroblasts are taking an assessment of the mechanical forces on the muscles every 60 seconds, and then they're pushing out collagen that ends up making fascia. So whenever the fibroblasts are getting input of some sort of mechanical force, whether that horse is exercising, moving their body, whether they're getting a massage, our collagen fibers get laid out in like this nice flat wavy pattern, and they're able to glide on each other. Whereas if they don't have any input, they sort of get spit out like a spider web and they just get matted up and tangled. And so every 60 seconds, which is super cool, the fibroblasts are reassessing and we're getting new, pretty flat collagen that can glide on itself if there's the correct input. So just by the tape being on there, we're giving that input to get good glide. So a lot of our range of motion restrictions are because of fascial restrictions, less than muscle restrictions. So the muscle lives in the fascia, sort of like if you were to put Play-Doh inside a Ziploc baggie. So regardless of how pliable that Play-Doh is or how pliable the muscle is, it's still limited to the baggie or to the fascia. So a lot of those wave patterns that I do on fascia, we're trying to get sort of that lateral shearing force to break up fascial adhesions, but less than breaking up fascial adhesions, we're trying to make the new fresh fascia be happy and smooth so that it glides well.
Okay, guys, so I see we have a few extra people that have joined us live. Welcome. It's so great to have you. We are chatting about Kinesiotape with Ciara Crawford from Sozo Equine. I'm going to keep tripping over that. And it is, it's a fascinating modality. It's a great one for us to use. If you're joining us, please join the conversation. That's why we're here on Facebook, so that you can join and participate, ask your questions, share your ideas. And with that, Carrie Rodriguez has a comment for us. I've been taping for a couple of years and I'm currently taking the Sozo Masterclass. Good. I love this class. I work taping into almost all of my bodywork clients, but one of my main reasons for learning bodywork is to help my own horses. That's a very good reason. And stick to that, because most of us don't get to treat our own horses. So my 2-year-old will be heading to track as a harness racer this year. Is there a maintenance tape that I should be doing to help his body recover more quickly while he's training and then on race days? I'm so excited for the in-person class in Minnesota. That is going to be
Yay. So you said sorry, what's his sport? I missed that. The phone broke up for a second.
Sorry. Okay. So a 2-year-old track as a harness racer. Yeah. He's going to track as a harness racer this year. So she wants to know if there's a maintenance tape that she can use to help his body recover more quickly while he's training and then on race days.
Yeah, so I would do any sort of circulation or muscle support to the glutes. I would have to do some research on harness training, but just thinking about the activity that they're doing a lot of pulling and, pushing from the hind end, pulling from their shoulders. So circulation recovery to the pecs, the lats, because they're pulling forward, and their glutes. So carry any of like those wave patterns. I use those all the time just to help increase circulation, decrease pain, support those muscles. Pretty general applications, not really anything specific that I would target yet, just to keep his muscles supple and happy.
Yeah, and potentially, feel your own horse and feel what he needs, and let his needs and his body guide you, because they will all be different, right? So I think that's also something to consider. Trust yourself. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, so that was a little bit about fascia. So why do you think not so much on the the bigger sheets of fascia? Because one of our most often used applications would be on the thoracolumbar area or region when there's pain or tension, or for me it would be pain or tension. So what do you think is happening there if we're not impacting that fascia? And could we actually be more effective if we say, came from from the shoulder upwards and tried to, targeted that fascia from different directions, so from the stifle or from, more towards the abdominals, and tried to get through the thinner sheets of fascia to break down or to influence that thicker thoracolumbar fascia? Haven't tried that.
That's a good question, Anne. So I think we do affect it. I think that we affect it less because it's so thick. So like I said, we are affecting the fascia that's currently there, but we're more so affecting the future fascia, if you want to call it that. And so that's a really good question. I guess I say that because it's so thick that I think, there's already, and I'm going to make a number up, there's already 100 layers there of collagen. So whenever we lay down 2, it's less effective than if there's a piece of fascia that is 10 layers thick and we lay down 2. That's 20% of the structure instead of 2% of the structure. So I could be totally wrong. That's what makes sense in my head. But yeah, I think you're right, because that's so, like, it's at their core, right? It's at their spine. It's their main stabilizing piece of fascia. So to think that we can't affect that is really discouraging, because it affects so much, I go to IASTM a lot, which is not what we're talking about here, but on those thick pieces of fascia, I like to work them a lot with my tools. I prefer stainless steel when I do it. I really like to work with those. I feel like that's an aggressive approach to work on those collagen fibers and then support that with tape. And I feel like that's a lot more effective than tape alone on those thick bands of fascia.
Okay, I like that. For myself, if I have if the region is really tight or painful, I like to use tape first, because I feel like then when I come back to it, they're a little bit more receptive and open to manual therapy. And some of the other modalities that I might use. So, specifically manual therapy, because I could and would still use my electrotherapies if I chose to do that. But I do find when they're, like you say, they're just not happy to be touched or worked on, then I like to use tape first. And then they have a much bigger, they're much more open then, right, to the manual therapy. So I like that. Okay, so tell us a little bit. I think, guys, pop in questions, comments any time, and we'll go there. But I'd love to understand a little bit Sozo Equine better and your teaching platform, because you do so much teaching, and what you stand for and why you're teaching, how you're teaching. So tell us a little bit about the business side of what you're doing.
Yeah, so as far as classes available, I have them available both online and in person. When we meet in person, you get the full online class as well, and you're expected to complete that first. But I love how much hope comes with tape, because it's a $20 roll of tape. And a lot of these other modalities are a lot more pricey. And so a lot of times for these owners, they feel like they're unachievable, whether it's the amount of knowledge that's required to do it or the amount of money that's required to do it. I love the hope that comes with tape. And so I love teaching. Like I said, it's not completely foolproof, but there's a lot of grace that comes with the modality. And I love it because so many people are just so like the overwhelming happiness that people are like, I got to do this for my horse. I got to learn this modality to help, Pumpkin, who's 22 and raised 3 of my kids, like we want to help Pumpkin. It's just so encouraging to feel that. So I'm rabbit trailing. I apologize. But Sozo, really, the meaning of Sozo is wellness. And it's emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, it's like this full picture of wellness. I got the word from the Bible. So anytime someone came to Jesus and whenever he would say, your faith has made you well, that word well was Sozo. And so I really loved that full picture of wellness, because the goal, right, in all of our wellness is to be proactive. Of course, we have injuries, but our goal is to have this full picture, beautiful, maintained wellness. And so I love that. And I love the community that social media brings. I love that I'm talking to you in South Africa right now and we get to connect, like that's so cool. Social media is as powerful as you let it be. And it's super cool that we get to learn and be better because we can talk to each other through it. And so once again, I'm rabbit trailing. I feel like I could really go on a tangent about how cool. Basically, I started this as an online business, right? And then I've met all these amazing people that this isn't what I signed up for, and it's way better than what I signed up for. So I love it. I don't know that I answered your question.
But don't you love how God does that to us, right? So I don't know how you guys listening feel, but I mean, I have the same exact experience. This wasn't my plan, and it is 100 times better than I could ever have planned. And I just love that. So yeah, it's really cool. So you have the master classes that you run that Carrie was talking about, and that have been available for quite a while. And then you've started a new society now, which is like a monthly membership, which is really exciting. That it looks amazing. So
I'm so excited.
What are you doing there?
So in there, we have a monthly topic that we cover for the whole month. So in February, we're covering tape. And so I talk about half the time, and then somebody else talks about half the time. So right now I'm doing Tuesdays, and then we have guest speakers on Thursdays. And so it's been super fun to reach out to all of these professionals. I'm fangirling, like I'm reaching out to these professionals, like, I don't know if we'll hear back from them. And then they come back and they're like, I'd love to talk to you. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm the luckiest one in this situation. So I just really love it. March, we're covering lymphedema, which scares me, but it's Lymphedema Awareness Month. And so I want to bring some light to that. Thank you, Krista Vino, for pointing that out. And so reaching out to some people that are well versed in managing lymphedema in horses, which there aren't that many people that I have found. And then in April, we're covering rider balance, rider's physical body and how that affects our horse. And then in May, we're covering core balance and strength and how that affects every other part of the horse. And so we sort of have our next 3 months lined up, but we have a private group and then we have our guest speakers, and it's a party. It's always a party if you're with me.
Do you do all of it through Facebook? Is that kind of your main platform where you're chatting and communicating?
We do Zoom webinars, and then I end up putting them on the Facebook page, and then they're also in the Think of It classroom. But our chat happens on Zoom. So.
Okay. So I like that. I mean, you're spot on. Social media is as powerful as we let it be. It can be such an incredible tool for good that, I mean, we live in a global world, right? We can be reaching everyone. all around the world. So that's what social media does for us. It's quite amazing. So Sammy says, I'm very excited for the lymphedema topic. My aunt has a draft that suffers that had reached out to me to see if tape would be helpful. So yeah, it is an intimidating topic because it's like there just isn't enough good information.
No.
What is the right thing to do? So good.
Yeah, we have we have some different approaches. We have some acupressure folks coming on to talk about managing lymphedema, and I'm really excited. I will learn so much in March. So
awesome. And you're not a one-trick pony, like you said, right? So you also have classes. You also started classes recently with cupping, am I right?
Yeah. And then I covered the fascia blades. I cover some IASTM in there as well. And so sometimes you need something more than tape. Like you said, it's a very gentle modality. And sometimes for some of those restrictions, you need something a little bit more aggressive to break that up. Neither of them I do for super long time. Like if I was just treating a horse for 60 minutes, neither cupping or IASTM would take up a large majority of my time, but they're super effective when you need them. They're a very good tool to have.
Okay. I quite like the idea of cupping, but I've never had cups. So it's one of the things on my list. Like my next purchase will be a cupping system. I really
My husband loves it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, guys, so that is all my questions. I do want to say, so most of you guys are learning from Sozo Equine, and I think that's incredible. If you're a part of the online pet health community, we have some really great webinars in our members portal as well, from Dr. Sherry Johnson, Dr. Sybil Morley, and actually, so this month is our 5th birthday, Online Pet Health's 5th birthday, and our
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Our very first webinar was with Matt Brunke on Kinesiotape in small animals.
That's so cool.
A super cool way for us to also celebrate our birthday. I'm glad that you could be a part of that.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's a great pleasure. I hope that we will have you again soon to chat about some other fantastic topics. Guys, if you're catching the replay, please do share your questions. We'll come back and comment and answer them as the week progresses. So watch the replay. Feel free to pop your questions in. Join the conversation. We're here. Again, that's the power of social media, so use it. And we'll share that taping application that we spoke about earlier, as well as any other information that you need. So thank you, guys, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you.